Good morning and many thanks for joining us on another edition of Political Spectrum. We're live on Spectrum Television. Hello from me. I am Raymond Ata. Well, the countdown to the general elections continue and it will largely dominate a pulse of our discussions in subsequent editions of the program leading up from today, of course, as we gauge the preparedness level of Nigerians and more importantly, the electoral umpire INEC in its preparations for the conduct of the February 25 presidential and National Assembly polls. We try to ascertain the readiness level of INEC with its ongoing training for its officers and those who will be deployed as ad hoc staffs in the course of these exercises. Later on in the program, Gordon Udobert will be joining us from Benue. He's at a training organized by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for its officers in readiness for that post. We get some feelers on that, of course. But as usual, a bulk of our conversation would equally be dominated by the one big story affecting Nigerians across the board, and that is the Naira redesign policy and the impasse that has been created in the past few days. Also later on, we'll be talking to Barrister and Sikak Akai to equally give us insights on the legal perspective of the policy as well as the decisions that we have seen in the last few days, where it appears that the executive arm of government and the judiciary continue to remain at an interface, with the Supreme Court still insisting that the old notes should run concurrently with the new ones, while President Buhari's nationwide broadcast yesterday only allowed and permitted the use of the 200 Naira old notes. Several states have equally taken decisions in this regard. Governor El-Rufai of Kaduna State has insisted that the 200, 500 and the 1000 Naira old notes would continue to run. As a matter of fact, he has said, look, by the time we are sworn in, referring to Bola Ahmed Tinubu, well, he says should Tinubu win the election, the old notes would continue to stay on, and those who may have lost money in that regard would have their money paid back to them. How that will happen is what we do not know. But let's begin our regular update, and we're starting with the information that the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, has described President Buhari's directive to the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to reintroduce the old 200 Naira notes into circulation as a step in the right direction. However, the Speaker said the President's directive falls short of the Supreme Court order that the old currencies remain legal tender, pending the adjudication of a pending suit brought by the state government on the legality of the policy as well as its implementation. Now, in a statement made available to newsmen, Gbajabiamila said it is not to the benefit of the country for the federal government to act in ways that suggest a wanton disregard for the rule of law. Now, according to him, it will be better for the government to strictly adhere to the court order in this matter, pending the adjudication of the substantive suit. The Speaker urged Nigerians to bear this moment, as well as adding that for the sake of the country, they must work together to resist actions that escalate the tensions and also endanger the democracy at a crucial moment of national awakening and rebirth. Moving on, Governor El-Rufai has challenged the authority of President Buhari on the Naira redesign policy, insisting that the old notes remain legal tender in the state. Well, this is in defiance to President Buhari's declaration during his address to Nigerians yesterday, noting that the old 500 and 1000 Naira notes are no longer valid. The president had asked Nigerians to take them to the central bank as well as designated places. However, in a statewide address yesterday, El-Rufai said the notes remain legal tender until the Supreme Court of Nigeria decides otherwise.
Stay calm and peaceful and support the lawful means being utilized to solve our problems.
Meanwhile, Governor El-Rufai said opponents of the All Progressives Congress APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu have huge funds at their disposal ahead of the general elections. The governor yesterday addressed the people of the state amid the scarcity of the new Naira note after the CBN redesigned the 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira note. Well, he said the CBN and other disgruntled federal officials had convinced President Buhari that it is fine for ordinary citizens to be dispossessed of their hard-earned money. Well, the governor decried the extent to which small and medium-sized businesses are deprived of access to the capital, thereby bringing trade and exchange to a grinding halt. El-Rufai confirmed that attempts to get the president's administration to modify the implementation of the policy to avoid unintended consequences were unsuccessful. The governor said those painted before the president as the real target of the currency redesign have not been affected in any way. And the former FCT minister equally condemned politicians who either own banks or have privileged access to money for recklessly endorsing a policy that is being badly implemented. To more political matters now, a high court in Makurdi, the Benue state capital, has issued an order of interim injunction restraining the People's Democratic Party (PDP) and its National Working Committee, as well as the National Executive Committee of the party and its national officers from expelling the Benue State Governor Samuel Atom from the party. Justice A.I. Itoyoyinam issued the order yesterday following a suit brought before the court on Wednesday. Atom was listed as plaintiff and applicant, while the PDP and the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) were listed as first and second defendants and respondents. Now, among the reliefs, Atom sought and obtained an order restraining the PDP from expelling, suspending, or placing any other punishment on him, pending the determination of the motion on notice for interlocutory injunction. Now, among the reliefs Atom sought and obtained is an order restraining the PDP from expelling, suspending, or placing any punishment on him. While the court also restrained the PDP from seeking to disqualify the Benue State Governor from contesting or not to be placed on the ballot paper for the February 25 National Assembly election, where he is contesting for the Benue Northwest Senatorial District on the platform of the party, pending the determination of the motion on the notice for interlocutory injunction. Well, Atom is a member of the G5, or the so-called integrity group, working against the interest of the PDP and its presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar in the February 25 poll for violating the zoning principle of the party. Now, following the violence accompanying protests in parts of Nigeria over the ongoing cash squeeze, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has advised the All Progressives Congress (APC) to take responsibility for the failure of its cashless policy. In a statement issued yesterday, Atiku observed that the violence is the result of years of suffering induced by the over 7 years of the misgovernance by the ruling APC. The former vice president said while it is convenient for the APC to blame the failure on others for political expediency, the crisis was birthed and nurtured by the ruling party. Atiku noted that in recent days, the nation had witnessed upheavals in different parts of the country in which lives were lost and properties destroyed. He expressed his deepest condolences to the families of those who had lost dear ones. Well, he said while the crisis may be coming on the heels of the currency swap, it is pertinent to note that it was a culmination of the frustrations of Nigerians arising from the maladministration of the ruling APC in the past 7.5 years. Now, lastly, the Coalition of United Political Parties (CUP) has released a video footage of the third attack on the country home of the spokesperson Ikenga Umogo Chinyere by unknown gunmen on the 7th of February 2023. But this third attack is coming less than a month after the second attack on the 14th of January, where 4 persons were killed, including his uncle, and properties including houses worth over 1 billion naira reportedly was destroyed. Now, the video showed the men armed with guns, machetes, charms, and other dangerous weapons invading the house in commando style. And when they could not find Ikenga in the house, resorted to terrorizing the occupants of the house, stealing properties, planting incriminating items, and destroying properties, including busting overhead water tanks and industrial-sized generators. Now, the group in a press conference in Abuja yesterday also accused the Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodinma, and the Commissioner of Police in Imo State of knowing more than they are willing to say about the attack. Now, they alleged that from among the attackers, men of the Imo State Police Command in Ebuebega network, and at least one officer from the Force Intelligence and Investigation Bureau were identified from the video. They therefore called on the Inspector General of Police, Usman Al-Kalibaba, to immediately investigate the attack as well as unravel the mystery behind the unknown gunmen in the state. Well, these are all disturbing occurrences in the lead up to the elections, which comes up barely 7 days from now. We'll keep tabs on this development, and hopefully by next week, of course, we should be hoping to talk to Ikenga Ugochinyere himself right here on the program. So do well to stay with us expectantly for that one. But we'll turn our sights now to preparations for the 2023 elections. INEC, of course, says it is ready to host the polls regardless of the skirmishes witnessed across different parts of the country. One of the steps, of course, it's putting its officers and ad hoc staff in order in preparation for those polls. How ready are they? Stay with us. When we come back, we'll find out more. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. You're still watching Political Spectrum live on Spectrum Television. And of course, we're focusing keenly on preparations for the conduct of the 2023 elections, which kickstart, of course, on February 25, beginning with the presidential as well as the National Assembly polls. In the course of time on the program, we've tried to ascertain the readiness level of Nigerians and the electoral umpire INEC in the build-up to the polls. In the face of attacks on its facilities and installations across the country, concerns around logistics problems with fuel and occasioned as well by the Naira scarcity, Nigerians have been asking how ready INEC is to conduct the polls, especially with concerns about the credibility of its staff. Well, one of the ways to address these concerns is a training organized for most of its staff and those who will, of course, be pivotal to ensuring a seamless and smooth conduct of the exercise. And that is through the several trainings that INEC has been organizing in the past few days. We've been going around the country in this regard. Today we go to Benue State, where Godwin Odobert is on standby observing the proceedings around these trainings conducted by INEC in readiness for the polls. He joins us live over the line. Good morning to you, Godwin. Welcome to Political Spectrum.
Good morning, Ray. Good morning to Nigeria.
All right, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Before we talk about the training proper, of course, just before we came on the air, you did confirm that you were yet to start because preparations are still in place. Before we come to that part, I'd like to first gauge your opinion on the state of the Naira scarcity witnessed across the country. What's the situation like in Benue State? Let's start from there.
I don't think the situation over here is different from what we have in other parts of the country. You go to a fueling station and you see some fueling station are closed. You can't have the premium motor spirit, and coupled with the scarcity of the redesigned Naira notes, the economic situation over here is on a standstill. Like 2 days ago was one of the popular markets here. There was nothing moving as it used to be. So it's affecting the Benue State just as it's affecting other parts of the country.
Well, okay, if that is the case, I'd like to know what's the position of the Benue State government in this regard. I mean, just yesterday, we heard Governor El-Rufai of Kaduna insist that people can continue using the old notes in Kaduna State. I wonder, is that the same situation in Benue State? Is it likely that people will continue using the old notes alongside the new ones, since you can't even find a bulk of the new ones?
Over here in Benue State, the state governor has not issued a statement as regards to whether the citizen should continue to use the old Naira notes or the new Naira notes. There has not been any official statement, but as it stands, a lot of people seems to obey the statement of President His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari of yesterday that says only the old 200 Naira notes be reintroduced or re-injected to the economy. Aside from that, the 500 Naira 1,000 Naira note is completely rejected. Business operators and all people in the state. So there's nothing different from the regulation that the CBN has given. The state government has not issued any language as try to what CBN has said.
So let's come back to INEC now, because we're looking at preparation level for INEC ahead of the polls. INEC has over time complained that it could have problems in the course of this election if certain things are not put in place. They have previously complained about logistics problem with reference to fuel, reference to the scarcity of Naira, and several other issues. But as far as we understand, with reference to the scarcity of fuel, the NNPCL has severally said, look, we do not have any issues with providing logistics for you. There will be enough fuel to cater for the services of INEC and its ad hoc staff in the polls. While the CBN has also said, don't worry about money, we have enough provisions for you as far as money is concerned to organize the polls. So should INEC or should Nigerians not expect any excuses from INEC with respect to organizing credible elections, since the CBN and the NNPCL have said there's nothing to worry about logistics?
Okay, as it stands, I don't think, though the training that is to kickstart today, over here, the arrangement is still on ground. They are still preparing. The INEC staff are still trying to put up a conducive environment for the training. But I don't think, because if you look at it, this election is something that the Nigerian government and INEC have been planning about, even from 2019, when President Muhammad Buhari was sworn in as in his second term. So it is not a problem if NNPC has said to INEC, don't have issue, we'll give you fuel for your movement of your ad hoc staff and your material to election ground. And if CBN has also said that will provide money for all the logistics of money to cater for the election to INEC. So INEC do not have problem or do not have issue about the election. They don't have to complain. All you need to do is that on that day of the election materials should be mobilized on time. Oh, the only problem we should be talking about is how is the voters going to get themselves to where they're supposed to vote. You can understand that some people will have to travel a long distance to their polling unit and to their location in order to be able to vote. So that is the only problem I see will affect the conduct of the election. But for INEC, the materials, everything they want will be provided to them, just as NNPC and CBN has promised. And I'm sure the Nigerian government has also promised to make sure that the election come out successfully. The only problem we have is how the electorate is going to assess where, or how are they going to get to where they're supposed to vote. That is their polling unit and the rest of the thing.
So let's talk about the training proper now. Can you give us an insight about the rudiments of this being set to be deployed nationwide?
If I on the video camera, you see a lot of people. So that is the situation at the moment. The INEC officials are still trying to put up.
Can we understand? Can we understand to an extent the modalities questioned, the selection process of those who actually have been, identified of PVC stages, where we had reports of some INEC staff and yet. So, do you have an understanding of the mode of selection of those who would work with INEC as other
online? And text messages were sent to all the people that registered online. That is those people that were selected, and those are the politicians send them. There are core members there. There are other people in the society.
Okay, well, so as you've said, those are the things that are going to be inundated to the ad hoc staff.
Okay, the training is going to, that stages, they are going to handle the machines that is going to be used for the election. So I think they have, staff is addressing the crowd, who are more than about 200 people
general expectations ahead of the polls, which comes up in barely 7 on the part of INEC, that this elections would be conducted, people will come out en masse to actually cast their votes.
So I just want to, I want also have confidence in INEC that I think this particular election of 2023 is going to be one of the other ones. So we just want to believe that this election is going to be one of what we have been having in the past.
Interesting thoughts in Robert, joining us live from Benue State, where INEC is, of course, finishing touches that is around, beginning with the February 25 presidential and National Assembly polls. So even in the face of the challenges, they've reiterated that time and again. And we can't, of course, begin to go back on some across different states in the country, especially in the southeast. So agencies in the country who have said they will work in partnership with INEC to dictate by the apex bank in the country, the CBN, as well as the NNPCL, who have assured there will be no fair and credible polls that everyone's calling out for. It looks like right now the owners, Eastern Nigerians, months back, captured over 93 million Nigerians registered to take as we lead up to the polls, and they've said some will be transferred to others. The time frame for actualizing all of these as a unit should not in any way disenfranchise a good number of persons who have already collected their PVCs and are ready to cast. Presidential directive yesterday, where President Buhari ordered the old 200 Naira notes to run side by side with the newly redesigned that the old notes can run concurrently with the new ones. Other states' governments have decided to comply with the Supreme Court's ruling. Legal tender is even made a further promise that should Bola Ahmed Tinubu win the presidential election, the Naira redesign
Stay calm and peaceful.
I wish to assure you that none of you would lose the money you have in old notes. Let no artificial or illegal deadline frighten you. Pleaded to deposit your old notes into the banks. Hold on to them. Continue to use the law is on your side. The Central Bank of Nigeria Act that recognize your old notes and give you value in new notes whenever you bring them to the CBN, even in the next 100 years. Legislators, our traditional institution, elected local government council, document,
Stay calm and peaceful and support.
Broadcasters are enjoined to make ethical reportage their watchword. All broadcasting stations must adhere to the principles of pluralism, of legality, decency, and truthfulness. For the avoidance of ends not later than 24 hours before polling day. Hate speech is prohibited. Be professional.
Nigerian Police Force, which is the only one allowed by. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised.
The scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who lead
of the killings he did,
he never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not. Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. This case is in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
Amazing country, Nigeria. Legally speaking. Join us every Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. for Legally Speaking.
Every day. Security. Kobum and Uyai Anyeken every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Daily.
Not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture. EPM Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Time for us to delve into the day's other biggest concern, arguably a redesign policy, which has brought some level of untold hardship. Nationwide broadcast yesterday apologized to Nigerians for the poor implementation of the old 200 Naira notes to run concurrently with the redesigned 200 ceased to be legal tenders as of February 10. It contradicts a Supreme Court ruling on February 8, which was reaffirmed on the 5th with the Supreme Court ruling, as opposed to obeying Mr. President's directive. Well, joining us to give us a better understanding and executive arm of government and the judiciary, Barrister Nsika Akai joins us again on Political Spectrum this morning. Good morning to you, Barrister, as well. Let's get straight to it now. Pretty sure you've been inundated with the context fusion as to who to obey. The Supreme Court Naira note could be allowed to run, but only for a span of between Mr. President's directive and the Supreme Court's ruling as to which to obey in court. It has left everyone in a state of limbo. So where do we go from here?
That we find ourselves in. The opposite of a rule of law. The opposite of rule of law is a rule of force. It appears to me that Mr. President does not realize that he is no longer in the military uniform, that he is now still using the rule of force. And I do know that if in days of the military, the very dark days of the citizenry, to check the excesses of the executive, of the legislature, and make an order. From any quarter, depending on our civic responsibility to that, going around portraying ourselves as a country that is operating a democratic administration, then I think the interim order made by the Supreme Court, pending when the then is Attorney General of the Federation and the CBN governor, they think very differently, and inputs from the Attorney General of the Federation. He is the chief and input upon which Mr. President is standing on, to give that counter order, which now appears to have to even before yesterday, they stopped acting the denomination of the Supreme Court of the land, and this is very sad. This is where I think that we do not lack a way out, but if arm at the center, then what would have been very certain that the National Assembly would commence impeachment assembly that is alive. I do not expect anything whatsoever to come from them. And this is why this constitutional breach,
Interestingly, when we heard from the CBN governor a couple of days back, he said that the old 1,000 Naira and 5 of them again, perhaps it informs why the president said allow only the old 200 Naira notes to and respect the Supreme Court's ruling. One of them that has already taken this effect is Kaduna State, where Governor El-Rufai yesterday decides otherwise. In the face of this, when you have the executive arm of government and the judicial arm, legislature is doing very little or nothing to equally address this issue. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, yesterday, the President's new directive is a step in the right direction. So, meaning they too are quite confused on what to do. So it begs the question, some have said it's an impeachable offense. We may not want to dwell on that now, but what's the position of the law now when the two arms of government disagree on a matter that seems to be constitutional?
Well, I think I already gave a hint. And that hint was that if we have a national president, political National Assembly that is largely dominated by men of the ruling party, to the judiciary to call in this way. So I would even put my money hard to say that I expect the National Assembly to do that needful thing. Like you have already said, the the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, has already taken a stand, and his stand, is that Mr. President is on the right course of action. So, what do you expect his House of Representatives to do in the circumstance? You also made some comments touching on the governor of Kaduna State, who yesterday also made a broadcast. People and residents of Kaduna, the president is actually the one who has brought this upon the nation, because now it is an order against the counter and all of those things. And then right now, Kaduna State, now attempting to open tenders as far as Kaduna State is concerned. But there is a constitutional issue there. There is a legal issue there. The commercial in Kaduna State, are they answering?
All right, it appears we may be having issues connecting with Barrister and Sikak Arkai owing to... Okay, looks like we have him back. Welcome back, Barrister. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so the point is, when they keep circulating, eventually will they have need to take these monies back to the bank for deposits? Which of the commercial banks in Kaduna have support from them? So this is where the problem would lie. Now, talking about the character and the personality called Nasir El-Rufai, the executive governor of Kaduna State, I would like to make a few comments about him. You see, when there's a very famous adage that says those who live in glass houses should not throw stones. They should learn never to order, granting bail to the leader of the Shiite movement, El-Zakzaki, and the wife, Nasir El-Rufai. Why is he crying today over some other person flouting a court order in which he is the first plaintiff? So he now wants to attract sympathy from Nigerians, certainly not from someone like me. So El-Rufai has always also been, an architect of disobedience to lawful court orders. Then I do not think he needs to cry. This also takes me back to, the very immortal words of Dr.
Yes, please go on. But we're still hoping to re-establish contact with Barrister and Sikak Arkai, who has been talking to us about the legal impasse occasioned by once. Well, we have him back on the line now. Welcome back, Barrister. If you can hear me, please go ahead with the point you're making. Looks like we're still going to have to try to reconnect with him. We apologize again keenly for the poor quality of the line. But then I will still do well. Yesterday spoke out following the president's directive that the old 200 Naira nations on how the central bank can actually reverse this policy with reference to recalling the old Naira notes that the presidency hasn't. The law actually does have answers to a bulk of these issues. It only begs the question as to how well the public has been inundated with most of these provisions in the law. But stay with us. When we come back from this very short timeout, the conversation... Welcome back. Still watching Political Spectrum live on Spectrum Television, and the main focus of our discussion at the moment, what next to do and where next Nigerians should head to with regards to the directive of Mr. President yesterday with regards to the Naira redesign policy. And of course, insinuations from different quarters that this is a flagrant disregard for the rule of law after the Supreme Court had said all the old notes can run concurrently. Call your attention now to the comments made by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi. Old notes can actually be recalled. And I find this interesting because it looks like most Nigerians did not even know more insight. Well, first, the Speaker said for the notes to be recalled, the first is that the permission of the President must be obtained. And the second, of the recalled currency upon receipt. First off, are you aware of these provisions and what its interpretation?
I may not like to be drawn into the interpretation, but you know, on the face value as provided by law, it is of public knowledge that Mr. President gave approval to this. I may actually give you some insight based on some decided authorities coming from reasonableness of time. You know, it's subjective. It is not something that is akin to any hard, interpret to constitute reasonable time with a final position, assuming the scenario. Then the reasonableness of the time that the CBN gave would be part of the issues at the Supreme Court before, you know, it becomes prejudicial. But the issue is eventually when the Supreme Court gives a final verdict, if it assumes jurisdiction over this matter, then, you know, I still foresee a whole lot of hardship. I still foresee a whole lot of confusion in the politics would have been created for Nigerians, and a whole lot of hardship would have also been meted at Nigerians.
So it leaves us now with the question about the role of the Central Bank of Nigeria in all of this. While we already have an understanding that the suit filed that the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele with regards to this policy, most Nigerians still do not have a full grasp as to allowed to make certain decisions and will continue to formulate policies regardless of an act that grants the central bank some level of autonomy, quarters, for them to stay hand on this policy.
With regard to then, he must be trading on a very dangerous and erroneous path because every citizen has a right to challenge another citizen or a fiction to hear matters against whether the Supreme Court sitting as a court issue where the CBN is not a party. These are the arguments before the court by my understanding. I'm a lawyer. I have my own opinion on the issues before the court.
Well, on the last line now, in the House of Representatives convene emergency sitting. The Supreme Court has adjourned the matter till Wednesday, February 22nd, and give a new directive. We are not lawyers, so we may tend to further address this impasse, although just say, let's wait until...
Is that a court of law is never a party can approach the Supreme Court or any court, you know, for likely undermine, you know, our national peace and security further and, you know, a date. Until that is done, the court will not accept either party to the dispute invokes the court.
Okay, so actually provision such to happen. The Kaduna state government decides to approach the Supreme Court again in the light
that, you know, decides to approach the Supreme Court to say, you can bring to mind, you know, our national peace and security.
Interesting.
As my last note, Mr. Remonita, coupled with your recent loss, you know, as an Arsenal fan,
for your concern and for reaching out to us on the program this morning.
Thank you.
But we continue keeping tabs on this. Just in summary of what he has said in that case, in reference to the governors who initiated the suit at the Supreme urgent national importance, then the Supreme Court can actually, hold any of those governors will take this action, in the next few days as we lead up to Wednesday's judgment. Critical time head out on February 25. Make that Saturday next week to cast their ballot at the first. Putting out to us on the numbers displayed on your screen, and looks like we do having a reaction. Hello, good morning. Just search on our website spectrumtv.ng, and please do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can get more feeds on our program. But we'll be back again next week, and hopefully there'll be more answers to all of the questions that policy. Would we heed to President Buhari's directive or comply with the stance of the Kaduna state government, who have said of the 2023 elections in the face of biting hardship and possible protests brewing up? We'll see you again next week. Bye for now.